English, do you speak it? Something I see people say every now and then is that English is a white language created by white people. What do you think? Do you also believe that English is a white language? Well, very similar to America, English is something that has contributions from many different cultures. So if people are saying it's a white language, then we need to look at some of the cultures that contributed to the English language and see if they are also considered white. First off, let's start with a fun one that you may not have known: Arabic. Yeah, believe it or not, a lot of key English words actually have Arabic roots and origins. A big one to consider is algebra. And I know, math can be boring, I know. But this is an important thing to consider because there is something to be said about the fact that we wouldn't have many of our favorite inventions without algebra, without math. Algebra is needed for basically every form of advanced math that gives us computers, cell phones, etc. And while we're on the topic, did you know that algebra was also taught to the Europeans by Arabic scientists? Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that, but Europeans got a lot of its basis for scientific knowledge from Arabic scientists. And I know this video is supposed to be about language specifically, but language and culture are so related that it's worth mentioning that the Arabic culture had a huge impact on European culture. And I'm going to do a whole video on that topic by itself, so look out for that video too. The Arabic influence on European culture. That's going to be a good video. But some other key words that have Arabic roots are algorithm, a word that is gaining in popularity these days, alcohol, alchemy, sugar, magazine, and so much more. So just that fast, with this one cultural example, we are already starting to see some cracks in this idea that English is a white language created by white people. Because can we honestly say that English is a purely white language if we have keywords that we use in English which came from other cultures that aren't considered white? No, of course not. That would be foolish and ignorant. Let's be smarter than that. A common misunderstanding of history is that it was filled with nothing but war between nations, and of course there has been significant war throughout history, but there were also times in history where people from different cultures came together to exchange scientific and cultural discoveries. And when people exchanged scientific discoveries, they also exchanged the words and language that came with those discoveries. And if we understand what was taken from those cultures, we can start to grow a greater appreciation for one another. But what do you think so far? For me, it's interesting to think that the English language has a Middle Eastern influence, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. For now, let's look at another important one that I think you should know: Latin. Now you should know that more than half of the English language comes from Latin. If not, then your English teachers failed you. But wait, is Latin considered a white language? Well, we have to look at the original speakers of Latin and think about if they were even considered white people. So here's where we have to use critical thinking. Latin was created by the Romans. And depending on what you know about history, you may think the Romans are white because they have white skin. But no. Let us be smarter than that and have a better understanding of history. Romans didn't consider themselves to be white people because they were not as focused on skin color as we see many people are today. In ancient Rome, there was more emphasis on your character and personality rather than your skin color. The Roman belief was, if you believe what we believe and live according to our lifestyle and culture, then you are a Roman. And if you didn't live the way that the Romans did, they considered you a barbarian, no matter if you were white or black. There was no separation based off of skin tone, but it was based off of a lifestyle and culture. So we see they had a much wiser way of doing things. So we're starting to see that English is not a white-only language made by white people, because there were different cultures who contributed to it in various different ways. But let's give white people their credit too, because yes, a lot of English words do have roots from culturally white civilizations like the Norse, Italians, the Celtics, and some of the others that you can see on the screen. But what's interesting about some of these cultures, like the Italians, is that it was only recently that they've been starting to be seen as white people. Historically, they were not accepted as white people, just like the Irish, the Greek, Jewish people, and many others. And that's what's very dishonest about a lot of race discussions. What I've been seeing lately is that when people want to feel proud of being white, they lump all people who have white skin together so that they can take credit for the collective achievements of the few great people within those groups. But whenever anyone from those particular groups do anything bad, then that's when the separation begins again, and they start to label those people as others. So they consider them white when they do something good, but when they do something bad, they're no longer white. And this is a profound level of dishonesty humans can have. I don't even think white is the appropriate term to use to describe Caucasian people, because white is a color that people try to use to represent them because they see it as something pure. But if you consider yourself white and take a DNA test, you're most likely going to see that you have some ethnic ancestors, if not a lot of people who are not historically considered white. Even looking at all the different groups of what we call white people today, there is still a lot of cultural differences between them. So you can't even say white and mean one thing nowadays, just like you can't say black and mean one thing. And when it comes to race and ethnicity, I know there can be a lot of nuance and gray area at times, and I'm going to be addressing some of those things in other videos, so make sure to check out my race discussions playlist. I've seen people who claim that English is a white language try to act like English is this holy thing that shouldn't change, and they genuinely get offended when new words are introduced to English, especially when they're slang words. Even today, English is constantly changing and evolving, and there's many new pop culture words being added to the Webster's dictionary as they gain popularity, because the nature of language is dynamic and evolving. Words have always been created, adapted, and reinvented throughout history to keep pace with changing societies, cultures, and technology. So we have to remember the true purpose of language: to connect people, ideas, and experiences in ways that resonate with the present moment. And when we try to classify English as a white thing, we just create more separation and division in humanity instead of unity and harmony. When it comes to language, we need to keep room for innovation. The idea that new words being added to a language somehow diminishes it is wrong. Every word we use today was once invented to describe new concepts, objects, or emotions that didn't exist before. If we only maintain outdated words without embracing innovation, it limits communication and disconnects language from the world we actually live in. Language must evolve to stay relevant, and this creative process has always been a part of human history. Rather than resist it, we should accept and celebrate the continuous natural growth of language, and we should not put this category on it of being white. And by the way, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I like it when people try to create new words and sayings, even if they're made fun of or seem silly or don't make sense in the moment. Just be creative and see what sticks, because that's what's been done throughout history a lot, so why not continue? There's even a new word that kids are saying these days. I think it's like squibbity or something like that. I don't know what it is, but I don't care. I love it. I love that they're being creative and trying to create new things. It's absurd and short-sighted to cling stubbornly to old languages, insisting that they must be preserved in their original forms without allowing any room for innovation. Similar to America, English is a collaboration of people from various backgrounds coming together to make one beautiful, cool thing.